prepared a little video which where you can see how I interpret smart objects. Hello, my name is Evelyn Lebis and I'm a smart textiles designer at Cetemmsa, a technological center in Catalonia, Spain. I believe that a smart product is a user-friendly tool that can sense and react to its environment. To me, a smart product makes us aware of how we behave with the objects that we surround ourselves with, and responsive clothing allows us to monitor our digital lifestyle and our well-being. In this sense, we need these products to make us more aware of how we live life and who we are. So, the key message in designing smart objects and responsive clothing is to keep in mind that we are designing for a human interface. Thank you. Okay, so that was that. That was actually at our, that was at our showroom, this video, and there you could see that we have wearables, objects, and materials. Thank you. My talk will be about the value of design, technology, and textiles. So, what are the main factors that influence design, and what is a meaningful design process, and how can textiles be a continuous driver for innovation from our point of view? Cetemmsa, which is a business, a technological center. We believe that if you, like the video showed, if you're designing smart products for a human interface is what you need to keep in mind. You're designing for somebody, and not necessarily a user, but a human interface. And that starts with technology acceptance. So I focus a little bit on how can we create this technology acceptance through technology, as the picture shows, what we try to do is we try to implement technology into the textiles so that you have an intuitive behavior, you understand that you can interact with it, and that it shows an identity, but also that it's integrated. And we believe that this is important because then the user can take this new technology and understand it in a comfortable way. It can empathize, it can judge, and it can have so, when I talk about identity, how do you design that? We design that through form, function, and color, and material, and to create tangible ideas. Here you can see animals that they have a clear identity. Also, like we already learned in the workshop, this from attention, storytelling is very important. We want the product in the end to engage the user to come and take a look, to think, oh, what is that? And that we do through storytelling by material, identity, shape, and Then, when it comes to interaction, what we want to design is intuitive behavior. So, we don't necessarily always know if something is designed, like you have hidden design and you have also very obvious design, but the main objective is to see like, okay, I understand what you're trying to say, and yes, this engages into me interacting intuitively with the object. Material. So, how can we really make material integrative? We believe that it's more about how the user can envision a certain application through the material. So maybe you don't necessarily want flowers in your car or you want a textiles car, but if you can understand how it could look like, then you want to integrate it, then you want it basically. This is what we focus on, so that the design actually can be integrated into your personal space. So for us, a smart object is basically when we create something which represents an identity, which is intuitive and which is integrated, but most of all, which is multifunctional. Here you see a bag, but it's also, it has solar cell technology integrated, so you can charge your mobile phone. And if that doesn't work anymore, then you still have a gadget. So it has multiple functions outside of its initial context. We also very much focus on research and development. We believe that smart development broadens the field of creation. So in fashion design, previously, it was very much about how to design on the body, to create an aesthetic, like on top of something, the skin. But now what we can do is we can actually design with the body, close to the body. So it's not only on top of the body, but also inside, biometrics, and around us. This opens up, obviously, the field. And it's, like I said, it's about interaction with ourselves, with others, with the environment, and with technology. So it has to sense, it has to be responsive, it has to be portable when it's about wearables, and it has to be, most of all, comfortable. At Cetemmsa, we very much appreciate knowledge, but more from a practical point of view. So what we do is we try to join forces. This is screen printing, textiles, sewing, and electronics. Just to come up with a simple shirt, which has some printed electronics, or which lights up as an LED, already requires these three disciplinary knowledge areas. Here is another example of how we use printed electronics as a sensor. Okay, so here you can see a garment that, that is on the body, which behaves with the body, close to the body. It was a rehabilitation sleeve, and we did that through printed sensors and printed electronics. We produce everything in-house, most of it. And basically what this requires, what technology also does, it opens up the design process, because if you are an engineer, you have a different creative process than a designer. A designer usually likes to be a free spirit and likes to make the things complex because it only initially wants it to look aesthetically. Whereas an engineer, he knows that there will be a lot of problems and a lot of solutions to solve. So they prefer to keep it simple. And the challenge is to combine these two processes and open up new methodology. It was quite interesting for me because as a designer, garment designer, to let my process and the way I design a garment lead by an engineer from structure and from actual pattern making methods, that opens up my field as a designer. So we focus also very much on interdisciplinary not collaboration, but also discussion and how to change separate fields. Our market is very related to, in the wearables, it is about communication, showing new technology, it's healthcare, it's music, it's for the police, like services, and it's very sensory oriented, like yes, body-related is important, obviously, interactive, interdisciplinary knowledge, and a creative approach. But most important is to create garments that are less disposable. That is something that we definitely have to keep in mind. We need to keep that in mind because at the end we want to challenge the industry and we want to change and find new ways of broadening the opportunities. And to do that, we need to look at the specific requirements. There is a huge difference in designing for a stage a smart object which just needs to look fun and pretty and which needs to open up the thinking of the general public, or actually creating something functional which is going to save someone's life. These requirements have led to different materials, but also limits, for example, one field. From a costume point of view or an aesthetic point of view, we don't necessarily want a textile that is that can function as a sensor, but that is only gray and that only functions in a certain specific way. For an engineer, this is nice because instead of using plastic hard material, they now have a rigid, soft, fully integrated material. Our main resources are on printing. We have 3D printing, functional printing, stretchable electronics, hybrid electronics, and e-textiles. The end goal is, of course, to facilitate innovation. So it's not necessarily about coming up with the best new solution, but more finding ways to create a platform where we can find new ways of doing things, also from a manufacturing point of view. Very concrete, I showed some samples before about heating technology, and that is a good example because it shows different textiles with the same application, with the same technique, which is heating technology, in different applications, and they require different ways of creating the actual material, in this case textiles. And this challenges the way we manufacture things, the way we resource materials and the properties. So what is the real value, I believe, from smart products and wearables and combining design with technology and textiles is that you can create a multifunctional content. You can also engage the users in less disposable behavior, and you can come up with a more resourceful production, and in the end, it's all about sustainable creation. That's it.
So for the last time during this conference, we will talk to our neighbors once more and just discuss what you've just seen and heard, and we'll ask a couple questions afterwards.
Also clear that when you work interdisciplinary and with different technologies, also seeing textiles as a technology, that then you change the properties of a material and as such the industry.
Again. Once more with feeling.
Okay, is it, do you understand that when you combine two technologies, then you get a new material with new properties, and these requirements or these properties ask for new ways of producing and manufacturing material?
So what's the question? Yeah.
The question is that clear? Does that make sense? Does anyone have any feedback on that part? Because that was a question that Evelyn just asked me about her presentation, and I thought it was more relevant to ask you about her presentation. So two different materials coming together, maybe two different technologies. How do we manufacture for that? How do we understand that and make it a new material? And yep. Does anyone have any feedback on that? Yes.
That's an engineering task, right?
It is an engineering task.
You believe that that's an engineering task?
The figuring out how to manufacture something. Is that the manufacturing engineers?
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any challenges or questions or interesting comments that came up? Yes?
I would like to know what level of complexity you can handle in electronics. Do you have both transistors, diodes?
Yeah. I don't know so much about the electronics part, but we design the electronics ourselves. So we have a pick and place in the and we make it from the components to the CNC boards.
So the component is not flexible itself; it's standard component.
No, I mean it depends. It depends on if it's if it's really electronics, the hard ones, they are not flexible. But if you're printing on a material like with a conductive paste and adding, then it's flexible. Yes. Or if we are knitting in a certain way, conductive yarns. And with coated yarns, then of course it becomes flexible.
Is it washable?
Washable, yes. Usually, yes. Yeah. No, that is actually that is not so much our main challenge. The washable, the sellable. It's more the connections. Because when you go closer to the body, you have different parameters to think of.
So I work in R&D division in Sven Corporation. So the biggest program is using new materials for the industry. Durability is almost always the biggest program for us. So durability of the materials. So and recently we find one good case. So we use electrical papers for using a Kindle or something like that. This technology used for the fashions like a smartwatch or a wearable device. In that case, we already accumulated a know-how about the durabilities or how to make the large size or something like that. So, so if you want to write to new applications, I think in the first step you should talk about industrial partners because sometimes they require many special requests, for example, UV durability, always humidity or temperature, or there are many requests. So sometimes if you lack only one parameter, it's very critical. So we often fail.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, same. Durability is a question, but more. But we usually coat sensors, so that is not the main problem, but it's more like how to sustain durability from a manufacturing point of view. Yes.
What are your concerns? We just discussed this. What are your concerns about the usability and the impact on the environment? It's hard to get the textiles and the technology apart, I'm guessing, when you want to dispose of it. So from an environmental point of view, what are your...
Yeah, I think we should not pretend at all that smart objects or electronics and textiles are a sustainable industry, because they're not. They waste a lot. But the way we design within that already existing industry, that is where you can make a difference, or that is where you can think of, okay, how do I create products that have multifunctional purposes so that the user changes its mentality towards products. I hope that does that answer your question?
To some degree, yeah, but I'm thinking that if you look at it environmentally, then it would be better to have two products. One thing that's textile, purely textile, and then another product that you put on your arm for the rehabilitation. I mean, I think it looks cool and it seems nice, but is it profitable even from an industrial point of view?
Yeah. In the beginning, I said when you design smart objects and wearables, you have to think about the human interface. So it's very important that the ones who are using it can do this in an intuitive way. For example, the example that we showed in the video, that is for healthcare. And these people who need to rehabilitate, they cannot use a rigid textiles and with an electronics on top, and the whole process of rehabilitating this physical movement is very difficult. And if you then can create a tool which allows you to do that in a more comfortable and acceptable way, that is what the focus point is on. Is that highly environmental? No.
How commercial is this technology? Do people actually put it into product today, or is it more at a research level at this point? Where are we in the adoption cycle, so to speak?
That's a very nice question, because we are a company, so our end goal is not only to come up with knowledge. We definitely intend to sell and implement it in real case scenarios. So most of our projects actually are real case projects and into production for other companies.
In the rehabilitation example, it was like the garment with the input in the garment, but the output was on a screen. What was the idea behind that, instead of maybe having the output in the garment as well?
Yeah, there it was again about the user interaction, and because what we have seen is that when the user can see it in front of him, then it engages into, oh, okay, I need to do it more. Oh no, I need to do it more, because you see yourself in another perspective and you see when you move. So that communication is quite important. If you would have it on the arm, you cannot really get that feedback.
Okay, so you needed to see yourself as a third.
Exactly, yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So again, back to the electronics. Maybe it's not your expertise, but what kind of? So do you know what kind of electronics? I mean, what kind of sensors? How do you track these things? So obviously there's some movement and stretchable and different things. But are there, like, do you have like 10 standard components that you integrate in your garments nowadays, or is it continuously developing, or what's
Yeah, it is continuously developing, because we do use research and development to come up to an end result. But very concrete, I mean, these are not all the sensors, but for creating wearables, when I'm thinking, the ones that I use is biometrics, and the ones that are body related, so that you use through body movement and haptics.
So when you say biometrics,
temperature, breathing, what else? Heart rate, things like that. Like everything which is related to your biometric.
And how do you, so I can understand breathing would probably be something with a stretchable material. So, and heart rate, do you have, so you actually incorporate the sensors that monitors the heart rate, or?
For example, if you want to measure breathing, you need an electronic sensor, like a component, and you need the textiles that adapts in that sense, so that you can, so from a textiles point of view, you need to go to a manufacturer textiles that will stretch and release. And electronics, they need to be implemented, and yes, they need to also send signals, wirelessly preferably, and then after that there is data which you can analyze. So it's a whole system, but I mean, that is for every single sensor.
So, any more questions? No? Are we close to some mass product produced like sports garments for Nike? Is it expensive technology, or how many years until you can buy an intelligent shirt?
Yeah, our biggest challenge is definitely the cost. That is the biggest challenge when it comes to mass consumption. So, for example, it's funny that you mentioned Nike, because Nike, what they want from right now is that we change the way the user interacts with their product. So they come to us and we design a technology that if they go in the store and they take the shoe, they get a lot of information on the wall. So it's more in that sense that we implement the technology, because at the end of the day, it's just not profitable. Yeah.